Hey guys, beautiful morning, beautiful afternoon, and beautiful evening to every one of you, my professional colleagues. How are we all doing? Congrats to all who has passed their OSCE exam. I'm super proud of you all. Welcome to your band 5 roles, and more than the sky is your limit. So if you're meeting me for the very first time, my name is Violet Okolacha. I talk about everything you need to know about nursing in the UK and OSCE exams. So today I'll be talking about charging the ward for the very first time. Yes! Yes, guys. So I actually posted in the community that I wanted people to vote on the one that wants me to talk about. I wrote API errors, assessment errors, blood glucose, and a lot of people went for charging the ward for the very first time. Now, to be honest, charging the word for the first time can be very, very scary and challenging. So, the aim of our discussion today is to make you feel competent and confident while performing this role or while charging the word for the very first time. So, that is just the aim of our discussion today. All right, guys. So, for the first point today, I'm going to be asking you a question and pop your answers in the comment section. At the start of a shift, at the start of a long day shift, you come onto the ward you are working. Let's assume you're working in accident at the no, let me use a simpler word. Let's assume you're working, okay, whichever ward you're working, but at the start of the long day shift, you come to the ward on that day to find out that having been qualified with your NMC pin for 5 months, you are the most senior nurse on duty. How will you feel? You're just 5 months into PIN, like you've just finished your competency, your oral drug competency, your IV medication competency, your venipuncture competency, probably your NG tube competency, and you're just there 5 months. And when you get on duty on a long day shift, you look, is a junior nurse who just came in. You came in, you look, you're like, am I in charge? So, how will you feel? What will you do? All right, guys. So, to be honest, this happens regularly. With the shortage of staff now, it happens regularly. And that is why when a lot of people said, let's talk about this, I really find it useful for us to discuss about it. So what will you do when you find out you're in charge? Even though you're 4 months post-PIN, you're 5 months post-PIN, I want you to be confident and I want you to be competent. And these are what I would suggest you do. Look at the number of staffs on duty. Now, you are the nurse in charge because you are the most qualified, or you're the senior nurse on duty. How many other nurses do you have? Let's assume you are the nurse in charge and you have two other nurses and you have two HCAs. Yeah, so you are 4 on duty minus you. So let's assume you're the nurse in charge. You have two HCAs, two healthcare assistants. You have two nurses, two qualified nurses, and you have one care support worker, making it a total of 5 staff, including you, making it a total of 6 staff. And on taking over, you discover that there is a patient who has been stepped down. The patient has been stepped down from BiPAP, but the patient is having a new score of 8. The patient needs a blood transfusion because the patient's HB is low. And so this patient is an high risk patient. And you have another patient doing the handing over who is very aggressive and is trying to get out of bed, And you have another patient who is on end of life and currently on a syringe driver, and it has been handed over that the syringe driver is near finish and would need resetting immediately after the takeover. So my first advice is doing the handover, listen attentively. Doing the handover, listen attentively. Yes, because if you listen attentively, you now see that we have 3 patients that need special care. So listen attentively during your handover and use your pen effectively. Listen attentively during the handover. So this patient has been stepped down from BiPAP, is having a news of AIDS and needs a blood transfusion. You take note of that. Another patient is very aggressive and needs a fall and is at risk of fall, You take note of that. And we have another patient who's an end of life and needs the syringe driver being replaced. You take note of that. So now your unit is a 26 bedded unit. Mind you, your unit is a 26 bedded unit. So pop in the comment section how you are going to allocate staff. Yes. So after listening to the handover, the next thing you want to do is to do what? Is to what? Allocate staff. Remember, we have 26 patients. We have 2 bays and we have what? We have 3 bays. Let's assume we have 3 bays. So we have 3 bays. So how are we going to allocate patients? How will you plan for the day? Who would you escalate to? And how would you plan for discharge? So getting all this into recognition, how will you allocate staff? How would you plan for the day? Who would you escalate to? And how will you plan for what? For discharge. So number 1 thing to do is to allocate the right staff to the right patient. Now, how do you allocate the right staff to the right patients? You have been working in that ward and you know the strength of the nurses. For instance, when working in a ward, we know those nurses that are very good. Although you work with them and you're like, this nurse is really good. You know those nurses that are top notch. You know those nurses that know their job, that if you give them 20 patients, they can deliver. It is illegal to give one nurse 20 patients. But what I mean is, you know that this nurse can deliver at every point in time. Even if she's your junior, but you know that this person knows what she's doing. So the person that knows what he or she is doing should be allocated to the bay that has a patient with a new score of 8, that has a patient with a low HB, that has a patient that needs blood transfusion. So allocate that person to the worst bay. That is the bay that needs great attention. You allocate that patient you allocate that staff to that bay. You that is charging the ward, never take the toughest bay. On no account should you charge in the word, say, no, I don't want problems, so let me just take this bill because I don't want, no. You that is charging the word, you that is in charge, do not take the toughest bay. And the toughest bay to the nurse among those 2 nurses, you know the one that is more competent, more that knows the work more, and that bay to that person. All right. Remember, we said we have 3 bays. Then, and the second bay to the other nurse. Then handle the bay that is less stressful. The bay that has the patient who is at risk of fall, and that bay over to the other nurse. Then take over the bay that is less stressful. Now you're done with the nurses allocation. What about the allocation of the 2 healthcare assistants and the 1 support worker? So you hand over you give the support worker to look after the patient who is at risk for fall and that is aggressive. Yes, the care support worker there should take over the patient who is at risk for fall, the aggressive patient. Oh, hello, sorry. What's your name, darling? All right, can you help me look after the patient at risk for fall? And please be there at all times because I don't want any stories. Good. So we now have 2 HCAs that are left. And remember, we have what? We have 3 bays. So share the bays between the HCAs. Each bay has, I think, 8 patients. We have 26. We have 3 bays. So share the bays equally. Can you please, one of the HCA take 1.5 bay and the other HCA takes 1.5 bay? Yes. Somebody will say, oh my God, 26 patients for 3 nurses. Sometimes it can be 5 nurses to 26 patients. But we are talking of a situation where you are charging the ward for the very first time. There is shortage of staff and you know, amongst everybody, you are the most senior nurse on duty. Now we've allocated the right staff to the right patients. So, bearing in mind that the most capable nurse should look afterwards the very sick patients while you oversee them. All right. Now, after doing that, the next thing you want to do is to allocate breaks. Yes, you've allocated the right staff to the right patient, bearing in mind that the most capable nurse should look after the more sick patient. Then you allocate your breaks. You can pop your breaks on the board if that is the routine of where you work, or you can go to individually and tell them your break is by 10 o'clock, your break is by 10:30, your break is by 2 o'clock, your break is by, and that's it. Now, after allocation of break, you want to get a list. You want to get a list. And in that list, you want to write out things you should not forget to do in that shift. Number one, the patient on blood transfusion might not be your patient because you're not the one looking after the patient, but you are overseeing everything happening in that day. So you pop it as your notes. Oh, patient on blood transfusion, low HB, patient at risk for 4, syringe driver finish, needs to be refilled. After popping out all the things you intend to do, you call the nurse looking after the bay. Hello, sorry, darling, that patient on the end of life. Can we do the syringe drive? Can we sign the CDs and do the syringe driver together? You get that sorted out. You go over to the nurse looking after the very sick patient. Sorry, can we make sure we ring the blood transfusion unit just to be sure the blood is ready then so that we can set it up? You just oversee everything. Immediately you finish doing that, get one of the nurses. Can we check the CDs together, please? Because in each day shift, you are expected to check the CDs. You do that promptly. Then you go over to start your what? To start your medications. Yes, you go over to start your own medication. Remember, you are taking the bay with less stress. Give all your medications. Immediately you finish giving all your medication, it could be time for blood rounds. Or probably after giving your medications, you go over to check those who are due to have COVID test done. So in the UK, we do the COVID test the first day the patient comes into the hospital. If it's not done in the accident and emergency department, then we do the COVID test day 3 and we do the COVID test day 5. Then after that, we do it every 3 days or every 2 days, depending on where you work. So you check and know those patients who their COVID test is due. Do their COVID test, send it off to the lab, check those who are due for MRSA. If a patient has stayed in the hospital for over 28 days, they are due for another MRSA. Check your hospital policy, make sure you get all that sorted in. Then if you still have time, go through all the patient's notes and check, they've handed over to you. Just check, this patient. Because when it's time for board round, you are going to be handing over the patients. Yes, to the doctors. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Ailey Bruce came into the hospital yesterday because she had a fall. So the doctors have seen her. Currently, she's having so. And so you want to be very conversant with the patient. So go through all their notes, or probably go through the reports from the doctors or the report from the nurses. Just go through to have an idea of what you will be saying in the board round. Immediately the board round is over, make sure you get the nurses and the HCAs to go for their break. Otherwise, you're going to be having inflow of staff without breaks and work left undone. So please, you can just call one of the HCA. Can you make sure those going by 10 o'clock breaks have gone for their breaks? Can you make sure those going by 2 o'clock have gone? You're always on top of what? On top of the game. All right. So guys, it's really, really very demanding to be the charge nurse. I have to be honest with you, because most times you even miss your break. You don't have break because, especially in this situation where I've presented to you, there is massive staff shortage. You are the nurse in charge, So most times you can end up missing your break. All right, guys. So another thing I want you to take note of is you have to make sure you oversee every other nurses that are doing what? That are doing the work. Oversee every other nurse doing the work, doing the job. Now, another thing you have to do is you have to provide support to relatives. While you're doing that, before you know it, it's time for visiting. And some patients will come, sorry, I'm here to see my mother. And you have to attend to them. Oh, thank you very much. Can you do your hand hygiene? Can you put on apron? Can you put on glove? And you have to be smiling in the midst of all the stress. You have to put on a smiley face. You have to be able to walk with stress. You have to be able to walk with this stress, and you're still happy. So the main thing is deciding as the charge nurse the most important thing to do. For somebody will say, how can I be checking COVID tests? So decide as the charge nurse the most important thing to do first. Make sure you do your board round, you go through all the patient notes, and you make sure you are handing over properly to the doctors doing the board round. Another thing you also have to be aware is appointments. you have to be aware. Somebody should say awareness. You have to be aware. Some patients are for x-ray by 10 o'clock. Some patients are on for chest x-ray by 10 o'clock. Some are for x-ray of the pelvis. Some are for endoscopy. So you have to be aware of all the timings that patients are going what? Our patients are going for their what? For their procedures. Why should you be aware of the time? You should be aware of the time so that when they come, the patient is already prepared to what? To go. Now, what if I need support in all of this? Oh my God, how can I manage with 3 bays, just 3 nurses, and me in charge? I'm the one taking bay. You can get support. And who are those you get support from? You can get support from the matron. During the day, the matrons are there to what? To support you. And during the night, the site coordinators are there to support you. So immediately taking over, you know the ward clerk, some come 8 o'clock, some come 9 o'clock. So immediately your ward clerk is around, you speak to her. Hello, Haley. Haley, please, do you mind ringing any of the staff to see if anyone is free to come work with us? That's another good thing to do. Haley, please, do you mind ringing all our staff to see if anybody is free that could come and help? And so when the ward clerk rings any of the staff, and probably any of them is free, and when they come, you can hand your bed over to that person while you make sure you attend to the fact that all COVID tests are ready. You know, COVID tests are done. MRA say if need be to be done is done. All the patients are having their due medications. Patient that needs blood and the nurses are overwhelmed. They can't even have the time to collect blood. You go around collecting bloods from patients that needs bloods, you know. So when the person who they called is happy to come for help, then you can just give over your bay to that person. Another thing you have to do is discharges. Doing the blood round, once the doctor have said patient A is going home, patient D is going home, patient F is going home, what do you have to do? You have to make sure you check that the discharge are done. The doctors have done the discharge. You have to make sure you inform the next of kin. Yes, the patient next of kin. Oh, sorry, thank you very much. Hello, are you Mrs. Ellie's sister or are you Mrs. Ellie's next of kin? Oh, bless you. I just want to inform you that she has been discharged. Will you be coming to pick her, or you want us to book transports? You know, so she tells you, okay, I'll be coming to pick her. It's all right, she'll be ready. And you make sure if the doctors have done their discharge, you order the drugs from the pharmacy. Yes, the drug the patient is going home with, you make sure you order it from the pharmacy. And when the pharmacy gets the drug ready, you make sure you check the drug the way the doctors prescribe it with the one the pharmacy supplied, that they are correct. Don't check alone, check with another nurse, make sure they are correct. And if they are correct, make sure you pack all the patient's belonging. All the patient belonging. Not the patient has gone, you discover there is key in the patient locker. No, make sure you check well and all the belongings of the patient have been, have been packed. And probably if it's a patient on CD medication, make sure you have signed the CD from the book. Make sure you do all your bits. So guys, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, and do well to let me know if you've charged the ward for the very first time as a newly qualified overseas nurse, how you felt, and do well to let me know if you found this video useful. I can't wait to read your comments. Don't forget to like and don't forget to share with your other colleagues. Until I see you again, keep passing your OSCE exam. I love you all, guys.